Let's finish this up, shall we?
Oh, hi, Mark.
Hey travelers, welcome back to Roberto's Room. So you've heard Phase 4. If you haven't, go and watch that video. It'll be in the description. But let's tackle Phase 5 of the MCU. Again, before we get into it, my goal is to make the shows and the movies a lot more cohesive than they have been, as I mentioned in my Phase 4 video, so that everything is kind of streamlined and all of the characters are kind of sprinkled in there, so you really don't feel left out with anybody. I have added a few projects that are new to my MCU, and I will be talking about those here in just a moment. Before we get started though, if you would, please hit that like button, please drop a comment, and as well, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe. I would love to continue making videos like these, and I would love to have you on board for the ride.
Smile, everyone! We're back.
Let's get to it. So my Phase 5 actually opens up with the Ironheart show, which runs from March 5th to April 9th, 2024. I don't know what this show is going to be about in the current MCU, but I wanted to have her get her show in order to really help her inclusion into the Young Avengers. And as well, I do know that Mephisto is somewhat involved, so with the threads that I've already dropped for Mephisto in Phase 4, I figured this would be a nice way to continue him. Again, I don't know what he's going to play narratively in the show, but I did want to have her show in here to build up the Young Avengers film, which we will see soon. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, that's actually the first film of the Phase 5 MCU, with it being released on April 26, 2024. I would keep it the same, actually with the same after credit scenes as well. I think that was a phenomenal film, and I really have no notes on it. The same also goes for Deadpool and Wolverine, who I have releasing on June 28th, 2024. Again, keep the same, including the mid and end credit scenes. I feel like that movie was incredibly strong, and I want to keep it just as is. The next thing after Deadpool and Wolverine, from August 6th to October 1st, 2024, is She-Hulk. Yes, I am still including She-Hulk, but I did want to do a little bit of changing up with the show, having it be more of a crossover with Matt Murdock, more of the courtroom drama, and really have it have a lot of synergy with Daredevil Born Again and setting up that show. They really wanted to play up the romance between Tatiana Maslany's character and Charlie Cox's, so let's go all into that whole romantic comedy angle. That ending, we really need to fix it. I would say maybe have She-Hulk be undecided about how to close the show. Still have her break the fourth wall, but really have her go back and forth, maybe between it being a full-on courtroom drama or the tried and true MCU third act. I feel like they could have done something really cool, and they really misfired with the ending of the show. I would still also have Scar show up as he did in She-Hulk to be in Young Avengers as well. But it still could be funny, and I think that having more Matt Murdock is never a bad thing. Next, running from November 19th to December 24th, 2024, we have Hawkeye. I would keep it the same. The only difference is I would have an end credit scene where Kamala Khan meets Kate Bishop. Again, we're setting up Young Avengers, so all of these characters are still coming in. Then March 4th to April 15th, 2025, we have Daredevil Born Again Season 1. Keep it the same. That was peak MCU for me. I really have no notes on that show. And with the buildup, of course, from She-Hulk, we don't have Echo. I don't like Echo. We didn't need Echo, so no Echo in my MCU. But I feel like Hawkeye and She-Hulk can both build into what Daredevil Born Again Season 1 ultimately ended up being, so I figure we keep it as is. This is one of the only new things that I added into my MCU, which I've been teasing throughout Phase 4 and the start of Phase 5, but on May 2nd, 2025, having a Young Avengers film with Amadeus Cho, Cassie Lang, Riri Williams, Kamala Khan, America Chavez, and Scar, led by Kate Bishop, who unite to stop the Wrecking Crew, which we saw in She-Hulk. I wanted to keep them. Maybe with the whole adamantium thing still going strong, maybe they're now adamantium enhanced and are taking up residence in San Francisco, causing all kinds of mayhem. And I would actually bring in Tony Masters into Young Avengers as well, with Tony Masters, who has a lot of money and a lot of to do because of the Red Room, even though it was destroyed, having him be the Wrecking Crew's benefactor and using the Wrecking Crew to gather samples of DNA from all of the Young Avengers, as well as not only DNA, but studying their fight patterns. Of course, Taskmaster wants to learn how to beat his villains, and I feel like this would be a good way to do that, having him, of course, in the shadows as well as he is studying the Young Avengers and teasing him for later projects. I would also have Tony Masters releasing the Leader and MODOK and Valentina from the raft and having a huge fight in the raft, which actually destroys it. I want to destroy the raft in the mainline MCU. And of course, him collecting all of the DNA from not only the Young Avengers, but also the Leader and MODOK, which he gives to Valentina. And I wanted, again, Valentina has a really interesting part in the current MCU. I wanted to continue that. So I figured this would be a really nice way to continue that story, weaving her in, as we haven't really had Thunderbolts yet, which we will pretty soon in my MCU. Valentina in the Young Avengers film, in exchange for a plea deal, having not taken part in the fight and simply escaped, funds a new prison for superpowered individuals called the Cube, which she funds with her own money after the raft is destroyed in order to keep herself out of prison. MODOK and the Leader end up in the Cube, and Scar, who stops the Leader from escaping, puts him in the Cube personally, which again, we're gonna build on that in a later MCU film. Thunderbolt Ross is also pardoned for helping the Young Avengers. I wanted to have him also be in this film since he was last seen in the raft. And he helps the Avengers, and because of that is pardoned and gets to retire in Canada, being visited by Betty Ross. I feel like he needs to have a more sympathetic ending, and I feel like this would be a nice ending for him. The mid-credit scene for Young Avengers is the reintroduction to the Fantastic Four, who, in my MCU, I am still going to have the 2005 Fantastic Four. I love that version of the Fantastic Four, and with the Fantastic Four that we're getting in the MCU being kind of older anyway, there's really no reason why this version shouldn't just be pretty similar to what we got in the 2005 Fantastic Four. I would still have Chris Evans as Human Torch. I would still have Yoan Grufford. The only difference I would make is to have the Thing CGI instead of a suit, and have the mid-credit scene of Young Avengers be Johnny and the Thing arm wrestling, with, of course, the Thing letting Johnny win until the last second. I feel like that's kind of a fun way of reintroducing them into the MCU, as they're going to get their film coming up. I would have the end credit scene of the Young Avengers be the Leader, who awakens in the Cube, having been put in stasis. He actually awakens, but he doesn't move. All you see is him waking up, of course, teasing what is to come. Next, in my MCU on July 4th, 2025, we have the Thunderbolts, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, after the events of Kang Dynasty and Young Avengers, begins the Sentry Trials to have a real deterrent against multiversal threats. I would have the movie be kind of how it plays out in the current mainline MCU, but have it be a darker tone and have more of a focus on dealing with trauma. I would also include a scene which I thought was very strong in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was of Bucky and Ayo from Black Panther, who is going through the code words that activated the Winter Soldier and seeing that they have no effect on him, and him really relishing in that moment that he is free from that control. I love that moment, and I feel like this would be a good film to put that in, especially since it deals with trauma. I feel like that would be a good place to put a scene like that in. The mid-credit scene of the Thunderbolts, I would have the Thunderbolts being visited by Sam Wilson, who fears that something else may be coming and is recruiting more heroes to fight what is to come after the events of Kang Dynasty. Since in Kang Dynasty, they were severely outmatched, I feel like Sam Wilson would be proactive as the leader of the Avengers to build a new team. The post-credit scene, I would have the introduction to Achebe, who is going to be the villain of a third Black Panther film, Black Panther War for Wakanda, which will be soon, waking up to face Mephisto. Again, we're going to have him really going through the MCU and continue through Phase 5. Then we have Punisher, a special presentation, of course, leading up to Daredevil Born Again Season 2, which will release in September 15th, 2025. I would go nuts. I mean, it's a Punisher show. I mean, that would be really awesome, especially in a New York City that is overrun with Fisk's hunting of the vigilantes. I feel like that would be a great show of his, and also reintroducing his origin story, I feel like would be a really good move as well. Then, November 21st, 2025, I would have my Fantastic Four film. Again, it's kind of a spin on the 2005 team, but instead of Galactus, I would have them face off against Annihilus and the Annihilation Wave, and have the movie end with the Fantastic Four luring Annihilus away from Earth into a black hole. The Fantastic Four at the last moment are pulled through to our timeline. As they enter the wormhole, they go through another part of the wormhole as they lure Annihilus in. And the Fantastic Four land, not knowing that they have actually landed in our universe. The mid-credit scene of Fantastic Four have Doom arriving in our world, as well with the Fantastic Four, who encounters Thena from the Eternals. I told you we were going to bring her back, and bring them back because they're going to play a role in Secret Wars. And Thena prepares to fight him, not knowing who Doom is. Doom dispatches her with ease and just walks away. I wanted to again tease how incredibly strong Doom is, and I feel like with how we left the Eternals, because I wanted to keep that, even though it's a show, play out largely the same as it did in the current MCU. I feel like having Doom just dispatch Thena with ease really builds up to the menace of Doctor Doom. And the post-credit scene of Fantastic Four have it be J. Jonah Jameson announcing that he is Fisk's most trusted news source in Fisk's war against the vigilantes. And of course, number one on that list is Spider-Man. Next, February 13th, 2026, we have Black Panther, War for Wakanda. Shuri, now focused on world outreach, begins to neglect the rulership of Wakanda, and this leads to the rise of Achebe, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he is resurrected by Mephisto after he is killed in an altercation with who he thinks are the Wakandans. He goes into Wakanda and subjugates it, being empowered by Mephisto, who is, of course, again, in the background. Doom arrives in Wakanda. We're gonna have him actually arrive here and actually help the Wakandans deal with Mephisto. He is trying to play as if he is the hero. He is trying to figure out what world he is in, and I feel like this would be a nice way of having him in there. You don't know his intentions, but he seems to be helpful. But of course, being Doom, you know that he has some ulterior motives. The mid-credit scene for War for Wakanda would be Kingpin met in his office by a dark figure who we see just a glint of a spear teasing Kraven, as my version of Spider-Man Brand New Day will deal with a New York City that is overrun with Kingpin and his anti-vigilante task force who recruits Kraven to hunt down Spider-Man. The post-credit scene of Black Panther War for Wakanda is largely similar to that of Thunderbolts, where we have multiple Avengers teams gathered in the old Avengers Tower, seeing the Fantastic Four land. I would have Daredevil Born Again Season 2, keep it kind of the same with Matt Murdock building a team to go up against Fisk, and setting up, of course, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Then we have May 1st, 2026, Avengers Doomsday, where the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, the New Avengers, the Eternals, and the Young Avengers, all the teams assemble against Doctor Doom. And the film actually ends up with Battleworld being created, as I suspect Doomsday will be in the current MCU. The mid-credit scene, I would have Doctor Strange, who is now Sheriff Strange in Battleworld, remembering his past life as Doctor Doom wipes the minds of everyone in Battleworld and plots with Clea, who is also in Battleworld, against Doctor Doom. I would have the post-credit scene be the post-credit scene from Eternals with Dane Whitman teasing, of course, Black Knight and have Blade there as well. I would actually have Blade show up. You could either have the Mahershala Ali Blade or the Wesley Snipes Blade. I prefer to go with the Wesley Snipes Blade, but you take your pick. Next, on July 31st, 2026, is Spider-Man: Brand New Day. Spider-Man deals with his life in New York City, run by Kingpin and his vigilante task force. Kingpin, of course, sends Kraven after Spider-Man, and I wanted this to be a loose adaptation of Kraven's Last Hunt and have Spider-Man be pinned not only against Kraven, but other villains that Kingpin might send after him in his vigilante task force. The mid-credit scene is Hercules arriving on New Asgard, possibly before the events of Doomsday, but again, I want to play with time a little bit there to set up War of the Gods. And the post-credit scene is of Sue Storm going into labor with Franklin Richards. In a major deviation from the current MCU, I would have Moon Knight actually here in September 22nd to October 27th, 2026, instead of when we got him in the current MCU. Again, I wanted to use this show to tease what is to come, as Moon Knight hasn't really played a big part in the MCU, and I feel like maybe Midnight Suns would be a good thing to adapt in Phase 6 going forward with my MCU, so let's go nuts. Then, November 20th, 2026, I would have Thor: War of the Gods, which again is Hercules versus Thor in a climactic battle. Thor, of course, realizes that Hercules has taken over New Asgard and kidnapped all of the Asgardians, holding them hostage on Olympus to goad Thor into a climactic battle of epic proportions. And during this battle with Hercules, they awaken the Midgard serpent, which threatens Earth and Olympus. Hercules at first leaves Thor to die, but then has a change of heart, knowing that the serpent will also destroy Olympus. Both team up and battle against the serpent, who is defeated, but because of how much venom that Thor has dealt with when dealing with the Midgard serpent, takes the famous 9 steps. And I really wanted to have the 9 steps of Thor in this film as his end in the MCU be almost similar to that of Gladiator when he walks among the wheat at the end of his film, and have this be a really poignant moment, as this would be the end of Thor's story in the MCU. The mid-credit scene would have the leader escaping from the cube using his telepathic abilities, and the post-credit scene is Spider-Man arriving at Battleworld to discover that something came with him, and we glimpse the symbiote attaching itself to Peter. The culmination of Phase 5 is Avengers: Secret Wars, May 7th, 2027 in my MCU, and it is the culmination of the Multiverse Saga, ending in Battleworld as the heroes, with their Mind Spell wiped by Doctor Strange, who is killed by Doom, again from the comics, after discovering his treachery. All of them must find a way to correct the universe and neutralize Doom once and for all. Spider-Man, of course, gets the Venom symbiote, and I feel like, okay, this is a movie where you go crazy with the cameos and do a lot of multiversal stuff. If there's a movie to do it, this is the movie to do it. I would have the mid-credit scene kind of as a play of the Avengers 2012. End credit scene, I would have the Young Avengers recreate the shawarma scene, and I would have no end credit scene for this, as I feel like this is the end of an era. And then kind of as a bookend to my Phase 5, I would have a World War Hulk film, as the leader, now awakened and escaped from the cube, recruits Abomination to go after Scar, Hulk's son. This actually forces a team-up between Hulk and Red Hulk to find the leader, with Banner actually teaching Ross how to control the Red Hulk. I would have the mid-credit scene be the leader back at the cube, attempting to mind control Hulk again like he did in Brave New World, but because of how Bruce Banner was able to help him, resists, leaving the leader just dejected in jail. And then the post-credit scene kind of teasing what is to come in Phase 6. I would maybe have a flashback to ancient Egypt with Apocalypse, teasing, of course, the X-Men coming in Phase 6. But that is really the end of my Phase 5 MCU. And of course, my Phase 5 leads into the X-Men. I didn't really plan a lot of my Phase 6 because I thought, okay, there's an open book. There's a lot of things that you could follow up with, whether it be the Midnight Suns, whether it be the X-Men, which I know that they do want to explore in Phase 6. But I feel like my Phase 5 gives the MCU more room to breathe and really builds up the dread that is Doctor Doom before actually having him be in his Doomsday and Secret Wars film. But what did you think about it? I would love to hear your thoughts. Please drop a comment down below, drop a like, and if you have not subscribed, please subscribe. I would love to have you along for the ride. Thank you again so much for watching this video, travelers, and as always, go with grace.